Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guests today, along with his culinary partner Seth Parker, are serving up handcrafted noodles that showcase everything they love about noodles, and recently decided to use their culinary wizardry to summon into existence the Baba Yaga, the greatest wicked witch of all, to share their love of fried chicken with us. Please welcome back Chef Eliot Hillis. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, you can stop with the chef thing.
Why not, dude? You are.
Mm-mm.
I don't have to. I mean, I'm not going to call you chef the whole time, but you are a chef.
Okay, fine.
Well,
Sure,
at least for the intro, let me do that.
Okay.
Thanks for coming back on, man. As always, I always appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
For sure, man. I definitely wanted to talk. I wanted to talk about Baba Yaga and everything like that. So I kind of wanted to. So I guess obviously, first question always ask: what's your go-to lunch or sandwich?
Right now, I'm on like a pretty extreme diet, so the lunches are always chicken and broccoli. But under normal circumstances, fried chicken, obviously.
Okay. What on your truck on your and that was one of the things I always wanted to know, because obviously you eat your food, you eat your stuff out of your trucks, but you don't. It's not one of those things. But is there like do you have a favorite on each of the trucks or that's either slept on, like that people don't order, they should, but it's one of your favorites?
Well, ever since the Ramen Rumble, the katsu has been, and that's a really, really good one. The Biang Biang is my favorite on Red Panda forever. So even it goes through cycles of being popular and not popular, less popular, but it's going to stay on there for as long as I'm alive. And then on Baba Yaga, I think that the spice bags are probably my favorite. As far as the sandwiches go, the sea hag is probably my favorite.
I love that. Those are. I mean, they all slay. So I mean, that's pretty. You can't really go wrong with any of the choices that you provide. First off, obviously, congrats on all the love for Red Panda. I think it's one of those things where anyone who doesn't know who Red Panda is, I pretty much my whole entire family will. My whole entire family will tell them about it. Like we actually talk to them like it's like sacrilegious that they don't know who you are. So so I definitely but if you haven't heard their story, he was on Eliot was on before, so you can definitely go check out our first conversation on the podcast. You can definitely listen to that. So I definitely appreciate him coming back on to talk their newest venture. I know you guys have a huge following. I was very intrigued to find out, and you've done a whole bunch of things, everything from permanent locations, like being at a location, and also be at, be on the truck. And so I'm just kind of want to get an idea, like what came up with the idea of you wanting to do another truck?
The thinking was at the time, I mean, everything has its drawbacks and its pros and cons and whatever, but the thinking was at the time, given the economic situation in the country and our positioning, that if we could basically set up a central location and create all these little outlets that could go where the people are, we could create a much higher ratio of revenue to cost, and we would be a lot lighter on our feet and be able to create multiple different avenues of creative control with minimal input. So for like, as opposed to putting $250,000 into a location, we would be able to put in $50,000 and just go. That was one side of it. The other side of it was being able to basically centralize everything that, like, we already did, and be able to run catering in 5 or so trucks and like a mass production. So we're moving into the retail space right now, and to be able to package and produce and whatever in a small scale factory. So the next move should be to like a massive, 10,000 square foot factory or something like that. That's part of the 5-year plan, but that was the initial thought. The execution has been slower than we would have liked.
Yeah. But at the same time, and that's something that I've heard from other trucks and stuff like that have gone from like truck to like gone the route from truck to brick and mortar. And that was like the one thing that they all said was like, they're like, we like the idea of obviously having a location. However, the hard part is we miss being able to be there where the people are and be able to like and have that like now we're a destination, people have to come to us. So it
Right.
makes sense why you guys kind of did that. Why tell people, I want to know the origin of where the idea came from, because obviously there's a lot of chicken. So I kind of wanted to know why chicken, and then also why the name of Baba Yaga, and explain a little bit how that kind of came about.
So it was all basically one continuous conversation. The truck, we already had the physical truck, but it was completely a blank slate. And we were talking about, what do you want to do? How do we do this? And there was a conversation about bringing up the old stuff from Orlando Meats, the burger and the shake hands with beef and all this other stuff. And we brought it down to like a few core sandwiches. And one was like, the Danzig and the shake hands and a burger, and the Eugene the Jeep, which is the fried chicken sandwich. And then, well, it's like really talking about logistics and everything. And then in the course of that, we actually came up with the name Baba Yaga, because sandwich, which, well,
Yep, I
just
love it. No, I love
word
it.
association. And then literally during that course, we're like, well, Baba Yaga's house has chicken feet. Do we just do a chicken truck? Like, that makes more sense. And then at the same time, in our lives, we were doing those pop ups inside of our commissary kitchen, and we had done the spice bag, and it was intensely popular. It's like, well, that's half the menu. We have, we could do a couple sandwiches, we do a couple spice bags, we do this thing and that thing, and that's a menu right there. So why not? The other thing is, our chicken is like fundamentally different from a construction standpoint from most chicken, and that was something that we wanted to put forward. Like, our breading sticks in a way that most people's doesn't, and that's important to us, and that was something that we wanted to express more fully, exploit, I guess, is the better word, to be able to showcase something that like is truly different about what we do. So that's that. I mean, that's the whole thing. And then developing the iconography was talking to Gabbo, our designer, who's also
Yep.
our
I
tattoo
was
artist.
I was gonna say much. I was actually gonna give love to Gabo and tell him
Yeah.
and much love, because he created the logo and he did the work on the truck,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal.
Well, originally the truck, and still will be, it just, we haven't been able to do it, the truck will look like Baba's house, the whole thing on the side and everything. But when we were going to launch it, the guy that was building our truck, he couldn't guarantee that it'd be safe to drive down the road with the
Gotcha.
roof
Yeah,
at
yeah,
80
yeah.
miles an hour and all this. So it was just logistically infeasible. We've since learned the tricks and everything that we need to do, but now we have to find the time. And the people that are going to build it are busy with Halloween stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of Halloween work, so we're taking a pause on that. But Baba will eventually look like the Baba Yaga house with the feet and the walls and everything.
I love that, dude. I love that. Can you tell people, in case, so if they don't know about your spice bags, can you tell them a little bit about that, and then also kind of talk a little bit about, because like your menu does have a little bit of everything from, like you said, has sandwiches, has spice bags, you have some handheld. So kind of tell people a little bit about what they could expect. And the one thing I will tell you, obviously the breading is amazing on the chicken, but it's also the fact that like the thing I jokingly will tell people about this chicken is that it is a massive chicken sandwich. This is not like your little chicken sandwich. They're like, oh, I think I got some chicken. I mean, this is like you're eating chicken before you even eat the sandwich. So you have to like actually eat around. It's almost like this massive piece of chicken that's just super tender, and the bread. I mean, it is flipping good. Like I can understand why Eliot and Seth kind of were like, you know what, like I'm going to show you what a chicken sandwich is, and that's kind of, I think, part of it as well, because I mean, when they made sandwiches, like it's very similar to like your pork katsu sandwich that you guys had at Orlando Meats in that aspect. Like it's just delicious. But can you tell a little bit about what a spice bag is, and then some of the other handhelds that you guys have?
So the spice bag, oddly enough, is also Chinese by way of Ireland. I mean, everything we do is kind of Chinese. But so when Chinese immigrants came over to Ireland, they set up restaurants, and they were having trouble in much the same way when they came to America. They were having trouble selling traditional Chinese food. and so they were trying to reach the palates of the Irish people, and in their in the machinations of all that, they came up with something that you can eat on the go. It was amenable to their palate. It was something that was like quote unquote familiar, and something that was, drunk food, because that was going to be, like you go to a chip shop or you get, Chippy Buddy or anything like that. Fried food, quick, easy. Potatoes. So, it's French fries, it's curry. The more traditional ones will have like little fish balls, the fried fish balls in them. We don't do that. Some fried peppers and sometimes fried onions. And so I ran across this thing when I was doing research, like you know how you fall down the Wikipedia holes, like this is related to that, is related to this, and I have no idea how I got there, but like, oh, this spice bag thing is super cool. Let's do it. And it developed a following very, very quickly. And much before we had Baba, people were already asking us if we can do it on Red Panda. And it's just like logistically infeasible to bread everything live on Red Panda. So we're like, no, we'll save it for special occasions and all this stuff. And so that was where it came from. That was the genesis of all that, was just, how we do everything is research. I don't cook my family's heritage particularly professionally, so I don't really draw from it very often. And so that is the core of everything. Is we're scientists. We're dealing with a series of variables, and creating the best we can out of what we know at the time.
Speaking of variables, one of the variables that you guys have to deal with, and it's always interesting to see how you guys handle it, is the fact that you guys are cooking in a small space, intense heat. And it's, I mean, organized chaos, but it is chaos because you guys are going really fast trying to get all the meals out, because you guys always typically have a line and are always busy. So how do you handle that with the second truck now?
I mean, that's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So the overarching thing is just employee placement. So having the right people on the right truck at the right event. That's the biggest thing. And then underneath that, the trucks are not the same. We were dumb. I mean, we still are dumb, but we were we were more dumb 3 or 4 years ago. 3 years ago when we got the Red Panda truck, because it's purpose built specifically only for that. It has 4 woks on it, a pastelator, and a deep fryer, and that's all it can do, really. We've tried messing with stuff, but really nothing works other than what we're trying to do there. So that also has a problem, and it makes it incredibly hot. So Baba maybe will get to 120 degrees in there, but Red Panda's gotten up to 180 before, in the middle of the summer, with all the woks going, really pushing it with 3 people on the truck and whatever. So there's that. You just really don't have a choice. I always liken it to, and I know that this is going to fall really short because I'm not a parent and I don't know shit, but it's like being a parent where you can't like quit, even if they're sick, even if whatever happens. So you don't have a choice. You just have to bear down and do it. And the worst of times, I think the worst thing that I ever remember, the hardest thing I remember, we were at, it was Zombie Toberfest, or it was one of those, right in front of Red Light, that little strip there. And it was, I mean, we were just going. And it was like 160, 170 degrees. And you actually had to kneel down to get air that was breathable for a second, come up, and then shallow breaths, blah, 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 blah. And we sold out, and I came off the truck, and I was dripping, like onto the asphalt. My clothes were just dripping. And yeah, but it was an incredible feeling of accomplishment, in the same way that I feel like it would be if your kid did something cool, like walks for the first time, or says something interesting. Like our truck was able to do something that we didn't know it could do. When it reaches these new heights of achievement, when it's able to produce in a way that we didn't know before, or my body is able, or Seth's body is able to handle these kinds of extreme situations, like, it feels good.
Are there ways to help? Like, have you guys figured out ways of how to kind of I don't know, like suck out some of that heat that's able to happen in order to make life a little bit easier? I mean, I know that I like, of course I'm thinking like, oh, can you put a fan at the end like that sucks out? But then at the same time, I know you guys are going. I see the refrigeration. I see you kind of going with the walk and moving around. Is there a way to do that to kind of make it so that it's? I mean, that sounds dangerous as hell, Elliot. I mean,
So there's a lot of things going on. We have a dual hood system in Red Panda that pulls a lot of air, like a ton of air, and that draws through the windows and through any opening or any openings. Initially, we had an air conditioner on Red Panda, and it was supposed to do anything at all, and that didn't work because air conditioners can only like affect so much, and they weren't putting out enough. So we took out that and just left a vent there. And the initial thought was to put a mini split, those air conditioners, and we have one, but we never installed it because the idea was that if we do this, we're literally just going to be wasting gas and energy, and it's not actually going to change the temperature because the airflow is much more important than the temperature of the air. When you're at like 120, 130 degrees, air conditioners can't really
they can't keep up.
affect any change, so you
Yeah.
need the airflow more than you need the temperature shift. And I think that's been really crucial. Yeah, just creating ventilation has been the only abatement that we've been able to achieve. That being said, I mean, Baba doesn't really get that hot comparatively speaking. You only have two fryers and a flat top. So, I mean, they're gigantic fryers. They're like 80-pound fryers, but still, you live with it.
Yeah, I mean, you've been doing now Red Panda for how long?
I think it's 3 years as of this month.
So I mean, you're kind of used to it. Lots of hydration when it comes to, I guess, lots of hydration for
Yeah, like
sure.
you try to drink. I mean, I try to drink about 2 gallons of water when we're doing it. So, like, if we have like Goblin Market is one of those ones that's very, very busy and very, very long. I think it's like 6 or 7 hours. Milk Mart's another one. And, we bring tons of water and in addition to like a big gallon of water and everything. And I definitely got heat exhaustion the last Goblin Market. Like, I had to lay in the grass afterwards for a while just to collect it. I had that buzzing kind of pressure. I was like, oh, this is heat exhaustion. All right, we're good.
What? So I'm kind of like, so I'll preface this because obviously, if you're listening to this, you're not going to know like what, or what time I record or anything like that. But I definitely want to know how how many hours of sleep do you have? Do you do, or like, what's your typical sleep pattern? How many hours do you typically sleep?
The overnight nap, like the longest period of sleep, is like 5.5 hours. Usually around 4.5, but sometimes 5.5. And then, like on a good day, I can get 6. And then I like to take naps wherever I can. So like yesterday, I got up, got everything ready for Baba to go out. Me and Seth together, and then Seth left to go do Baba. And I got everything ready for Red Panda, and then I had like 2 hours in between, so I took an hour long nap, and then I loaded up the Red Panda truck, and then I went. So I probably get like, you know, on the whole, like 6 or 7 hours a day if you
Okay.
consider napping and resting and.
Yeah, I mean, as much rest and naps as possible. That's why I was curious, because I'm like, if you finish an event and it's late and you're done, it's like and all those things, and then you're up and early again and kind of going and prepping. It's like, I mean, it's sooner or later there's got to be a wear and tear of your body and rest.
Well, I think with the same thing with the heat is like acclimation. You do it over and over and over again to the point where it's just normal now and you don't think about it. I mean, Seth and I have been cooking together for 10 years. So, we have a rhythm. I'm more the morning person and he's the night owl. And so, if there's anything that early morning that needs to be done, I'll handle that. And if there's anything really late that needs to be handled, he's on that. And like, I kind of will fizzle out around 10 o'clock at night. I'm just like, oh, fuck, can't really. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to
That's
curse.
okay.
Um, but he's still going. Um, but like he's really hates the morning. and I'm having a great time first thing. We we find our place, and like that's we've gained a lot of strength from relying on the each other's deck of cards, so to speak. You know what I mean?
And you
I
guys have
think it's
figured
like
it out, obviously, in the last 10 years. You guys have figured out what it is that kind of works the balance, and obviously you're successful at it. So that's awesome when it comes to that. You mentioned retail space, so I want you to, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? I know people love your goblin sauce, like your curry sauce and stuff like that. Is that something that you guys are looking to do more of and kind of bottle up and stuff like that?
well, not bottle, but
Okay.
package.
Yeah.
So the initial run of Red Panda Chili Crisp went on Amazon, and there was some legal confusion concerning whether or not we were attached to another business. Amazon thought that we were doing something that I don't know. They thought we were another business. We are not. We sent them all the proof, and but we only got to sell maybe like a quarter of our initial run, and then they destroyed the rest. Yeah. So we're in the middle of a second production now, and then in conjunction with that, we are figuring out how to package and sell. We're calling it Instant Goblin for right now. I don't know if it's going to change, but it's a packet of goblin sauce that you just add water to and go, and you'll have goblin at your house. I kind of envision it as like a Kool-Aid packet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just like rip the
Yeah.
top off and do the thing. Um, and probably be like for 2 servings worth or whatever. The biggest issue was finding a place that we could import that much like peppers and stuff. But our investors have been very good about finding us those sorts of things. Like we don't have enough time. Everything's eaten up by cooks. So now it's just like, hey, I need to find where we can buy a pallet of powdered garlic, a pallet of Tianjin peppers for chili crisp. Like a pallet, everything's in pallet size now. There's like 1,000 pounds of things. I mean, when we first started Red Panda, everything was bespoke. You're talking like making 2 quarts at a time of stuff, and now we're making our batches of chili crisp are 200 quarts at a time.
Jeez. What is the idea then? So you said like you want to make it into like the package where like almost like a Kool-Aid, so not a version of like a little plastic. And the reason I'm asking is because I have a friend who does they do like Italian beef. They have like Italian beef kits, and one of the things in their kits is they put it in a plastic, basically like almost like a plastic season jar, but the
Hmm.
the mixture's already there, so then you just literally unscrew, dump in, and then that's it. So that's just an option if it gets easier to be able to do. I don't know if that's easier to kind of work, especially if you want to do like make it 2 portions versus one when it
You
comes to that.
actually you actually have to add heat to activate the emulsifier in the goblin so that it'll become that thick sauce. The other thing is we wanted to lower the footprint and lower the waste
No,
potential.
I
So
love the idea of a packet like that, of especially like a Kool-Aid, because you guys could make it almost looks like a, kind of like a spell, like a witch's spell,
yeah,
little packet type of thing, and just dump and go, and heat up. So no, I think this is awesome. The fact that this is like another avenue for you guys to be able to kind of hit, especially since people are obsessed with the chili crisp and also with the goblin sauce.
yeah.
So it kind of works out very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to move and diversify your perspective on like how things work because, you know, I didn't go to culinary school. I was raised in like boutique restaurants, and Seth had a similar path, although he did go to culinary school, where you're working with like little fussy this and that, tiny, maybe 10 portions or whatever, and then looking at economies of scale and saying, what does it look like to have 10,000 units of a thing? And how long does it take you to sell that? And where do you store that? And whatever. We're like, initially, before we had any help, I mean, like, do we rent a shipping container and buy an entire shipping container worth of dried Tianjin peppers so we can make chili crisp? And then where do we store a shipping container and where do we do that? And it changes your problem solving skills. You know, it's like a new adventure to kind of figure out and say, okay, and then try to backfill all of that to match what you're already doing so that it's one seamless thing. Like, for example, like the chicken that we buy. So we buy chicken, and what's the best cut of chicken, logistically speaking, to service both Red Panda and Baba Yaga? And then, what's the best peppers, or what's the best this and that and everything to service the most that we can do, and then how do we augment all of our existing stuff to make it match everything all around. I think that's the game that we're in right now, figuring out those things. And you know Seth and I being together for so long, we're literally becoming the point where it's two halves of the same brain. So we, you know hey, what do you think about this? And we have a language all of our own, where it's like, well, you remember we did this and we did that. What if we combine this thing and that thing? Like, we just did the Morimoto dinner a couple days ago, and the conversation was maybe 4 minutes long to figure out the entire menu, and then to do the musubi that we did for the fillet of fish. We literally, there's a McDonald's down the street from the shop, and we got a fillet of fish, and we ate it, and we go, "What do you think?" Yeah, okay, well, it works. All right, this makes sense, and that's really been an incredible aspect of our business, is relying on each other to finish each other's thoughts, and to flesh out an idea without having to overstrain or over worry about anything, because somebody's always looking out for the other side, a different perspective, while sharing the language that we've developed over so many years.
No, I love the relationship the two of you have, because you guys freaking together cooks up some amazing food. Since I had the fillet of fish musubi over at Appetite for the Arches that you guys were did, I was kind of curious how that kind of works. Can you just give me like, do they actually give you, like, you say this is what I need, and then like they give you McDonald's fillet of fish stuff, or is it like that's literally how it works? You're like, I need this much fillet of fish, or this is what I'm thinking, these are the ingredients I need, and then you then actually make it from that?
Yeah, that's what happens. So we ordered from them. They give you like a product manifest, and then you go, okay, I need fillet of fish, obviously, we need ketchup, we need tartar sauce, and they brought it to us like 2 days before or 3 days before, and we just got it done. The interesting thing is looking at their logistics and how they operate. Seth actually mentioned, he's like, I thought there would be more McDonald's iconography on the packaging. It's all very, it's just a box. The fillet of fish box has like a picture of like one of those little ichthos fishes, you know what I'm talking about? Like just the outline of a fish, and then a box next to it, and then that's the whole thing. And then it just says fillet of fish. But there's not a, I've thought, I think
You thought the whole
everybody would
thing would
think,
be branded McDonald's
yeah,
and all that stuff?
McDonald's, don't touch, not for
Yeah.
sale to anybody else, kind of thing. But it's very, very blank. And then the tartar sauce and the ketchup are even more blank. It just says like ketchup,
Tartar sauce.
tartar sauce, and they come in these little bags, these pouches, which kind of, it's all very like Soylent Greeny, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like very monolithic in its existence. But the yeah, it was very easy after we decided what we were doing to just figure out the logistics. The one thing I we were there and in operation, and maybe had serviced a few dozen people before, at least I didn't come to the conclusion. I was like, oh, people think this is sushi because like fish plus rice
Yeah.
and nori. But it didn't click for me. I was like, oh, we're doing musubi. This is
Yeah.
obviously in the
Everyone
style
think
of
yeah.
musubi,
Yeah.
not in the style of maki. So, whatever. But like, it's always interesting what I'll miss because of the myopic view that I have for food. You know what I mean? This is the thing that I do. This is how it operates. And so, yeah, they're like, is this sushi? Kind of. I mean, technically, it just means sour rice. So yeah, there's sour rice in it, but this is not. No, but yes. But come on, man.
Come
Like,
on, man, it's fillet of fish.
yeah, don't do this to me. I don't know how to like. But people were really cool, and we did get a really the thing that I enjoyed most about the event. I mean, besides the excitement and the fun of it all, was a lot of the staff had got to come by, and it was really really cool to like have conversations with them, and to be able to share with the people that are also in the trenches in these huge. They do banquets that are 1,000 people. They do conventions that are 10,000 people. And it's like, what is their view of the world? How do they see this thing? You know? And like, I even love to like see how they eat. Because they eat different. When you're a cook, you eat over a trash can or whatever, just and I watch them like they kind of duck behind things. They would duck behind the thing, just real quickly eat it or whatever. And then watching normal people, civilians, they just, do you have a fork? It's clearly handheld. You just pick it up. But yeah, that was, it's really interesting. All the things you can learn from people if you watch long enough.
Yeah. What so I obviously is the idea to have, based on what I heard you kind of mention at one point, having like multiple like a multitude of trucks, and so that way you can kind of like, I guess, divide and conquer when it comes to events and things like that. Or is the idea kind of just kind of, hey, let's first figure out how to do the two trucks with Baba Yaga and Red Panda, and then go from there, because obviously now you have the other element, which, even though I know you're part of, but you have other folks helping you with that on the retail side of it. But like,
Mm.
you don't want to stretch yourself so thin either. But like, is that kind of the idea?
I think we leave it loose. The initial thought was to have about 5 trucks. And I think that the flow of the economy will dictate where we go next. The thing is like, you don't need that much money or that much time to launch a new truck. But what you do need is the space, the actual events. You need that much to be able to fill in, and
Correct.
make use of it.
Yep.
Whereas the opposite is true. You need a ton of money and you need a physical location uh, to do a brick and mortar, and it takes much longer, all the permitting, all the FF&E and all the this and that, and it has to be a good location, and then you're looking at like a year and a half ish,
If not
you
longer.
know,
Yeah.
between 6 months to a year and a half. But like, if we had an idea that we wanted to execute, we could get a food truck done in 2 months, maybe. So I think that that's going to dictate a lot of what we do from here on out, and what the economy does. I mean, this summer was brutal, I think, for everybody, and there's less good events. 3 years ago when we started Red Panda, I mean, you could go to any bar. We love, it's still true of like Hourglass. Go during a bingo night, make good money, everything's nice and good. And or you go to this brewery or that brewery, whatever. Shout out to Hourglass, fantastic, and Red Light, another stalwart of the whole situation. But I think there was a dragoning effect where everybody had a bingo night, everybody had a food truck outside, everybody had a thing, and so it's like the monotony, kind of the concept of like state dependent satiety, you know what I'm talking about? Where just everything became so monotonous that they're like, I'm not going out to just another food truck at another place and another bingo, another trivia night. Like, fine, whatever. So I think that we had a survival of the fittest thing where the strong survived. The ones that were really doing it survived, and everybody else kind of gave up. So too, the same thing with food trucks, and you're seeing it, in restaurants and food trucks. Like, people are falling out. um, there's a lot of trucks that, sadly, you will never know how many trucks get half built and then never make it to market. And then the ones that do get built, I've heard a few stories where they built a truck and they had everything going, and then a friend of the family dies or a family member dies, and then it's over, and then done. And so you have this little blips and moments of things, and credit to all the people that have had all these long-standing events. Tasty Takeover being the grandma of them all. It's been around for like 14 years, and Fallon does a great job. And I think that speaks, the longevity speaks to her ability to make those things happen. And you have, Milk Mart, and now Goblin seems to be the next. the
Next big one.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Courtney does an amazing job with her execution, and her marketing is really speaks to the people that she's trying to reach, and that's really what you have to do. At the same time, think about how many we've lost, all these events we've lost, or how many events have existed and actually drawn money from the economy because they failed so spectacularly.
What what has been the hardest part? Because I know like there's been laws and changes and stuff like that. Does that also hindered you when it comes to like the whole idea of food trucks and being able to just pop up somewhere and do things?
I personally haven't experienced it. Like we haven't had a big issue, but I know that some of the people that rent from us from our commissary space have been shut down at some places downtown and whatever because it's on the street and it's not whatever. And I know you were there for some of it, I think, but the conversations that we were having with the city of Orlando, it didn't. They just wanted to codify rules that had never been enforced. And so I think that we're still in that wild westian sort of this is the rule. It depends on who catches you doing what you're not supposed to do. At the same so like there let's just needle it down to some one thing specifically. So like fire standards, right? You have to know all this stuff if you own a food truck. But like it was 10 feet between the gasoline of your truck and the propane of another truck or vice versa, whatever, right? 10 feet. And then last year or the year before, they increased it to 12 feet. Well, the inspection notes still say 10 feet. So it depends on who is inspecting. And then when you get, I won't mention the cities, but there are some cities
Yeah.
that are more nice than others.
Yeah.
And so you get an inspector that's like, you've got your extinguishers, there's no active fire hazards, you're good to go, and have via con Dios, make your money. And then there's other ones that are like, well, I need to see all the paperwork. And then you point to the stickers. You go, this is the sticker that says this was inspected. This is the sticker that says that was inspected. And, he goes, no, I need the paperwork that proves that these walks are supposed to be here and not something else. And I was like, what? Like, but there's a schematic that needs to be, you have to submit to the city or to the state. Yeah, to the state, to DPPR. And it basically shows, for Red Panda, like, 2 walks, then a postulator, then 2 walks, then a fryer, and then the Ansel nozzles that sit above them. And that's what he wanted. And I don't carry that paperwork, so I had to like go back and look through my emails. And here's the thing: he's like, "Are you sure you didn't change anything?" It's like they're bolted to the ground. What do you think I'm gonna be doing here? Like you just you know what I mean? It's not some like 3 card Monte where you can move anything. They're literally bolted down, and there's no room to move anything if I fucking wanted to. So, uh, so you have things like that, or you have inspectors that are particularly like they're sticklers for one thing. They'll have a one thing that's their thing.
That's their thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's one guy, and we've run into him a few different times, and his thing is the LP gas and CO2 detector or carbon monoxide detector. He wants you to have one on the truck, and I mean you're supposed to have one on the truck. So we have one on the truck, but we have like the very general. You plug it in and it beeps if it smells anything. One, and he's like, no, no. When we went out to this event recently, we saw him again, and he's like, oh, well, that's good for general stuff, but you need to inspect your own truck every time you turn on the gas to make sure it's not leaking. And I'm like, he's like, you got to get this wand thing. You know what I mean? It looks like a little magic wand, and you touch it around where all the gas lines go. And he's like, you have to do this every time. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not gonna though. Like, I'll get the wand, and like when you're around, I'll do
I'll
it, but
show
I'm
it to
not gonna
you.
do it in
It,
general.
are they
No.
coming? So does there, because I've never really noticed one. Is there always an inspector that comes when you have an event, or is it one of those you just kind of spot drive around depending on like a big event or something like that?
It's both. So if you pull up a permit, something big like Milk Mart or Goblin or whatever, they have inspectors that come along with that price tag and they go around and do everything. And then if they see you, they're legally allowed to just do and
I
say
mean, yeah.
whatever. Yeah, we ran into one. I will say this one though. We went to one in Kissimmee. What's the town?
Seeing Cloud?
No, I don't know. Whatever. It was in Kissimmee by Disney, and this guy really, really wanted to punish somebody, and he didn't get us. He tried, but we were all legal and stuff, and that was fine. But he shut down a drink truck, and I have no idea what a drink truck was doing wrong that was fire related. But it was just like, come on, man, like, can't we just be friends here? There's no fire on a drink truck. I don't know what was going on. But yeah, I don't really want to paint a target on my
Yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
try to be as legal as possible all the time.
As you should.
Yeah. And we have our paperwork in order as far as I know at any given time. I'm not trying to skirt the laws or do anything wrong. Yeah. There is no rule about having to have a wand to check your stuff every time you turn on your gas. So
That's crazy. What how do you guys figure out like how I guess how do you figure out your time like your schedule because you have since you have staff like it's
mhm.
not just you and Seth. How do you guys figure out like your events and stuff like that? And then like do you also go the reverse it where like if there's no event going on or you're like, hey, can we pop up? You know, you go to a brewery and be like, can I pop up at your event or something like that? Like how do you kind of work that? Because obviously you have now two trucks and you have staff, so you got to fill those. If you don't have enough events, you got to figure out make something happen. I mean, sometimes maybe you have catering events and things like that as well. How do you kind of balance all that?
So catering is nominally usually done between 6 months and a year out for
Oh
big stuff.
wow. Okay.
So it's a long ways away, especially for weddings, because they want to make sure that everything, it's a very important thing, so a lot of planning. Like we have stuff, in the middle of next year already for that. But then you kind of go down in scale. So like your milk marts and your goblins and whatever that happen quarterly or happen monthly, you fill those in first. I'm going to go to these, and Zombie Toberfest and Krampus and all of these, shout out to Angie. Every year I'm going to go to Krampus. I'm going to go to Zombie Toberfest. I believe her name's Jenna that puts it on in Audubon Park. I don't think I've ever actually met her. Just typing. But so it's that you do all the big stuff first, and then you fill in like we're Red Panda is a resident at Tasty Takeover, so we're there every week guaranteed. And then Baba isn't a resident there, so I think the max we can ever be there is like 3 times in a month. If there's like 5 weeks, or anybody can be, you know what I mean, if they're on the list. And Fallon is very particular about how things are curated. Like she's very meticulous about those kinds of things. So, Red Panda or, Baba was only out like once this month because there was other trucks that were too similar, whatever, that kind of thing. So you plan for that. And then you try to, at least I do, try to build residency programs where you can. Like, so every week now we're at Digress with Baba, and every week we're at the Milk Stacks. That's Wednesdays with Digress, and then Thursdays we're at the Fat Ash location, the Milk Stacks, with Red Panda, and then we try to do first Thursday, or is it first Thursday? There's whatever the wine walk events with TPD Grant at TPD, and then we do all the She Sells markets with him, and Jocelyn, and then you fill it in the best you can. Like a lot of what we've been doing to bolster our numbers is corporate lunches are really good, smaller catering events that maybe for like 50 people or whatever that are kind of one-offs and that sort of thing. Um, it's really, really just a matter of being recognizable and being an object of desire for people. Like, hey, I want that. Like, Mohawk, right? Tyler from Mohawk. I mean, he absolutely destroys when it comes to catering in a way that we, you know, haven't been able to find, and that's like his niche. And I think our ability to do massive events is something that like kind of matches that energy. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Krampus will make, half a month's worth of revenue in one event in 7 hours, and it's just like crazy. So getting into the bigger events has been better for us because catering, the catering that we do tends to be more bespoke, custom for whatever. Like the last wedding we did was all like it didn't have anything to do with Red Panda or Baba at all. It was all basically French stuff. And then before that was Mediterranean. We did a graduation party. We did two graduation parties actually that were just basically like fried rice and curry and whatever. There, because that's what they wanted. So we did that. But yeah, filling the calendar is the problem that is most present when you have a truck versus a brick and mortar, because the brick and mortar is the opposite. You know what I mean? You're always open,
Yeah.
whatever. But getting people to come to it is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, they got the pluses and the minus to them.
Yeah.
All right. What advice, since you've opened another truck, and this is my usual general question, and it may change since the last time you gave me one, but what advice would you have for someone wanting to start something?
I think being older and more experienced in this hasn't granted me any special insight because new problems arise all the time. I think the same thing is true. I don't know if I said it last time, but know what you're getting yourself into and how much it's going to hurt. It's like being in a Saw movie. You know, you're going to lose something. It's going to hurt. It's going to be really painful and horrific, and it's not always going to be fun. But hopefully, if you survive, if you win the game, you make it out the other side a better person. The things that I've given up in order to pursue this dream of mine, this dream of ours, what I've lost isn't the same thing that Seth lost. It's personal to everybody. And I know people that have, lost everything. And I know people that, have died. Not as a consequence of cooking, but they died doing what they love. And the everything costs. So the choice to have children, the choice to not have children, the choice to work until you die, the choice to, I'm going to have work life balance, that's going to cost on the ledgers. Everything, art, like the production of art and the production of an expression of self has an inherent cost, and it takes away from who you are as a person. It takes a part of you, and it should. It shouldn't be easy, because then everybody could do it and it would have less value. But then when you see people that are really crushing it, Mariana from Gaucha, and Tyler from Mohawk, and Jimmy from Hot Asian Buns, Helen from Yene Rome, like, we all will stand around and we'll just be talking and basically like on the verge of tears, like, this sucks sometimes. Fuck this. Hapa Hollow and the past, and everybody, when we're having a great time and we really, really crush it after the event, we'll stand around and be like, yeah, that was awesome. Like, that was great. And then sometimes when it's slow and we're just all eating shit, we're standing in the same circle going, man, this really is painful. And we all know the cost that we're paying to be there, and our emotional states and our financial situations, it really takes a toll. And a couple years ago, or a few years ago now, a long time ago, but when all the chef's tables came out, the initial run, or I don't know if you remember the show Mind of a Chef, it was that, and it really did a great job of documenting how much you have to give up to pursue something that you love, and what else you will lose, the opportunity that you'll lose to pursue this thing. And I was getting very serious when Mind of a Chef came out, and then when Chef's Table came out, I was firmly entrenched in Orlando Meats and stuff, and we were just sitting in awe. Like, Seth and I would text back and forth, or talk and hang out and watch it together. Can you believe that Rene Redzepi basically lives on a houseboat across the street from Noma, and that's where he cooks and stuff all the time. Dan Barber from Blue Hill, he gets up in the morning and he runs 5 miles or 10 miles, and then he goes and he does prep, and then he goes and runs 10 more miles, and then he does service. Or Dominique Kren from Italia Kren, like, she's amazing. And if you get her book, yeah, so I think it's like the third page in, after whatever, her to her dad and whatever. But the third page in is their daily schedule, and they break the kitchen down to bare bones and clean it like 5 times a day. It's like morning prep, breakdown, lunch, then a breakdown, then prep, then breakdown, then dinner, then breakdown. Then they start doing pasta after that, after dinner service, and it's just this constant, thing, that the dedication that it takes will remove everything in your life that isn't absolutely necessary, and you'll lose some things that you think are necessary. relationships will suffer. And you know, being a small business owner, you know the same thing with you know, all this stuff, and trying to find the balance that you're willing to accept. I wouldn't say comfortable with, because it's very deeply uncomfortable. You know, have to be driven to the point, if you're going to do this, if you're going to do anything that is worthwhile, it will be very hard and it will take something from you. And I think that the can't go into it thinking that it's going to be that you're going to come out unscathed. You're going to get, it's like a, I don't know who it was, but you know, nobody wins in a fight kind of thing. You never, you know, the ramen rumble hat is on my dashboard, and I don't wear hats. My hair is too nice, but I have the hat there, and like the amount of stress that Seth and I went through when we were setting up the ramen rumble. We went to these meetings, and we go into the Morimoto space, and we feel like ants. You know what I mean? It's just like, how did we get here? We're just two idiots that like cooking. And I mean, there's 8 kitchens in this one location. There's a parking garage that's probably worth $30 million next to this thing. This building probably costs $5 million. Who knows how much revenue goes through this? And we've got like a food truck, and we're nothing. We're nothing. And I mean, I cried like a just immediately. There's a video that exists somewhere where Brendan is announcing the winners, you know, and it clicked in my head that mathematically at some point during the announcements that we had to be the winners, like just mathematically, because I'm fucking slightly autistic, you know. Okay, we won, but I realized it like 4 spaces before, and I reached over to Seth and I said, you know, we have to win. This is, and then just immediately the waterworks, and you know, it's weird to have that bittersweet thing. We won, but at what cost? You know, at what did that take from us? And we learned some stuff, and we enjoyed the time, and yeah, we got to revel in it, and we saw some new things. But it changes your perspective, it changes your worldview, and it definitely sets you up in the same way that like when you get a Michelin star, you get a James Beard nomination. Now the pressure's on to maintain this. Now the pressure's on to do this. So we did the ramen rumble, but we can't ever compete again because we won. That's the rules.
Okay.
So what is that closed off to us? You know, I'd love to convince Jason to do a tournament of champions so that I can get in there again for my own selfish needs. Like I was talking to Leela and Bruno from Pizza Bruno. You know, we thought Appetite for the Arches was a competition because we like to fight. And Bruno and Seth and I were out front. We're like just chatting about it. And I was like, yeah, we wanna do this. And so, you know, I know it seems very disparate and whatever, but it's all the same thing, is that you have to want to push and battle against these things. And if that's not your raison d'etre, like, then it's just not, you shouldn't go do something that's easier, because this is very, very hard. Like, I've never done anything that was more painful physically or emotionally at all, ever. Nothing close.
So that, and that's kind of, I'm just kind of curious, Eliot, like there's obviously a massive love, but why do you do it? Like what is your why of why you do what you do? Because there's definitely some love there and passion for this. Because
Right.
if you didn't, you wouldn't be able to take and deal with all the positives and the negatives. And sometimes there's more negatives than positives, probably. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of chefs sometimes live in a, unfortunately live in like in their own little world, and it can defeat them. So I'm just kind of curious, like, where is the love? Like, what's the why for you guys, for especially for you? Because I know obviously for Seth it could be something different, but for you, like, what's your why of like, this is why I love doing what I do. This is why I love doing Red Panda and Baba Yaga Chicken Truck.
In the interest of being truly honest, I think that there's a certain part of my personality that believes that I'm unlovable. And so the creation of something that people might enjoy is a form of currency. The fear that I'll be alone for the rest of my life, or the fear that I have nothing to contribute, pushes me to places where most people are unwilling to go. After a certain point, it becomes I don't have a choice, because the choice is between, you know, carrying on with this or death, essentially, whether it be an emotional death or a literal death. In some instances, I can't remember his name, but the guy that blew his brains out after he lost a star. Not a lot of people can understand the gravity of that, but I do. I understand what it could be like. It would be like losing a child. Your life is over. And these are very heavy things to contend with. And, I've been going to therapy and that kind of thing for a long time. And I've dealt with a lot of anxiety issues and drugs and relationship problems and stuff. But I think at the end of it, cooking is the only time where I've ever felt like people can actually see what I'm doing and understand this conversation, because it's quite hard to talk to me in general. And so there's an equalizer there where it's like, I want to give you something that makes you happy, because that makes me happy that I'm doing something positive in the world. And that, I think, is the simplest way to put it. And then once you see some success in that, once that becomes a viable conversation that we're having, the addictive nature of it takes over. And I want to keep having this conversation. I want to keep having this relationship. And so it's snowballs and goes, and it took over my entire life. I thought about it a lot recently. Like, I've never had a pet in my adult life because of this, because I can't take care of something that's alive. So those are the things where you make your choice and you kind of have to live with it. I'm almost 40 years old, and I don't know that I'll ever have kids. I'm not against the idea of having kids, but I can't, I can't have children in this current iteration of what I'm doing. And by the time everything's settled, will I be too old to have kids? Will I, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to be 50 years old, and what, I'll be 70 or 68 years old when they graduate high school, and that's no way to kind of raise a kid. I mean, people do it, but it's not suboptimal. Or, do I raise a generation? Do I get the opportunity? I don't want to be egotistical. Do I get the opportunity to teach a generation what it really means to care about cooking in not in a superficial way or in a self-aggrandizing way, but in a way that says, I'm going to give myself to this. I'm going to give everything. Bukowski, find what you love and let it kill you, or the art costs kind of prospect. There's something gut wrenching about it, and there's tears. It's a really painful situation. But is there a payoff? There's no guarantees. It's not the lottery. It's not completely random, but certainly there's more talented cooks than me that have eaten garbage and died. And when Gray Coons is a very underrated chef, invented the best saute spoon to ever exist and often repeated. I have his logo tattooed on my leg as a memorial when he died. And he never had what he would have considered a successful restaurant. And you should look him up. Gray Coons is amazingly talented, always ahead of his time, always really, really forward thinking. And his contributions are, most people will never know. And he's dead now. The same thing, like, who thinks about a lot of these guys? I'm not going to roll through go through the whole Rolodex, but, David Chang was the darling of everybody until he came out with that microwave book, and then he sued people over the chili crisp thing. And how easily your goodwill can be taken away. So you're afraid of losing this, my precious sort of moment. And all of that is just very confusing and it's a minefield to navigate. And so that's why we're all, adrenaline junkies and drug addicts and have all these failed relationships and lose ourselves in cooking, because to live is to risk it all. You put your money up, and then sometimes you lose it.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
I appreciate the honesty, man, and I appreciate that. And yeah, it's a whole different world that I think people just don't understand or don't realize. And especially with you and your love for your craft. So and I definitely know that. So I definitely appreciate that. Where so we can wrap up. Where can people follow you guys? Follow Red Panda. Follow Baba Yaga Chicken Truck. Where can they follow so that way they can enjoy and obviously share the love of your noodles and your chicken and all that goodness? Where can they follow you and see all of that and enjoy some of your food?
So Red Panda is at Red Panda Noodle, and we always have our schedule up there. We also have redpandanoodle.com, but we're trying to fix it and streamline it and stuff. Baba Yaga is Baba Yaga Chicken Truck on Instagram, and yeah, I mean those are the two things that we're working on right now that are like public facing. When we have the other stuff up and running, I'm sure we'll post about it and whatnot. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, man. You have some exciting stuff. I mean, I will safely tell you that their noodles are like, you can taste the difference. It's funny because I had it when the last time I got it. I actually didn't actually eat it for dinner. I ate it the next morning cold. It didn't matter if it's cold or hot. You may think it's blasphemous that I ate it cold. It did, but I basically, it's so damn good, it doesn't really matter. And my family was like, they're like, you eating this for breakfast? I was like, yeah, because I wanted to eat it for at night, but I didn't get the chance. And then they started eating it from it because they're like, well, I got to have some of this because your food is amazing.
Thank you.
And I know you know this, but I still will tell you because it is a family favorite, both of them. And I laugh because the first time my wife had Baba Yaga, she basically looked and she goes, well, she's like, you can't have Chick-fil-A anymore because this is a great where you're going to eat. And I was like, yeah, but they're not available all the time. I'm like, if it was closer, I probably that would be what I would eat all the time. So, I mean, you do amazing food. You guys crush it. I'm very very excited for your success, and the love that you guys have. And it's well warranted. And, I do appreciate you being on, and sharing. Always a great guest to have on. I believe I just enjoy our relationship, Elliot. You definitely are a great one, man. So thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Love you too.
Yeah, man. That's our show for today. So thank you so much to Eliot Hillis for being on, for talking about Red Panda Noodle, Baba Yaga Chicken Truck. Definitely check them out. Obviously, if you haven't, you'll see it everywhere. They've won numerous awards, Foodie Awards, Orlando Weekly Awards. They're definitely very if you're ever considering or have not eaten it, I definitely recommend it. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe. If you enjoyed Elliot's story, share it. Tell people so other people can hear their story and hear how, his journey and where he's at. At the same time, if you want to support me, check out my brand, Deli Fresh Threads. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.